Charlie Munger has always been known for his brutal and honest wisdom, that kind of truth that hurts but needs to be said. When asked what he would do if he lost everything at 30, his answer didn't come loaded with romanticism or cheap motivational cliches. It came with the pragmatic coldness of someone who built a fortune alongside Warren Buffett, but also with the humanity of someone who lived through devastating losses and knew exactly what it was like to start from zero. The difference is that Munger wasn't just talking about lost money. He was talking about rebuilding an entire life with the right lessons, avoiding the mistakes most people make when they're desperate. The first principle Munger defended was simple but counterintuitive: don't panic. It seems obvious, but when you lose everything, the instinct is to do anything to quickly recover what was lost. That's when people make the worst decisions of their lives. They invest in dubious schemes, accept jobs that destroy them from the inside, or worse, sacrifice their values in exchange for quick money. Munger understood that the speed of recovery matters less than the direction. He would tell you to breathe deeply, accept the situation without victimizing yourself, and start rebuilding brick by brick with patience. Impatience has already destroyed more lives than any financial crisis. The second step in Munger's plan would be to invest massively in useful knowledge. And when he talked about useful knowledge, he wasn't referring to pretty certificates or trendy courses. He was talking about skills that truly generate value in the real world. Munger had an obsession with learning mental models from various disciplines because he understood that life's problems are rarely solved with knowledge from just one area. If you lost everything at 30, you need to become a valuable problem solver. This means learning about psychology to understand human behavior, basic economics to comprehend incentives, enough mathematics not to be fooled by false statistics, and practical skills that people are willing to pay for. Munger didn't believe in wasting time learning useless things. He would focus on competencies that compound over time. Sales, for example, is a compound skill. Learning to sell doesn't just serve to sell products. It serves to sell ideas, convince people, negotiate salaries, build relationships. Writing well is another compound skill. If you know how to communicate ideas clearly, you can work in marketing, create content, write proposals that close deals, teach what you know. Munger would say, choose skills that open doors, not ones that trap you on a single path. The third crucial element would be to live below your means in a radical way. Munger always lived with extreme frugality, even when he was already a billionaire, not out of greed, but out of wisdom. When you lose everything, every penny saved is a penny that can be invested in yourself or in future opportunities. He would cut everything that wasn't essential. He would live in the cheapest place possible without compromising safety or the ability to work. He would eat simply but nutritiously. He would eliminate subscriptions, luxuries, appearances. Society pressures you to appear successful, but Munger would tell you that appearing successful is the fastest path to never truly achieving it. This frugality serves a strategic purpose, creating an absurd savings rate. If you can live on 50% or less of what you earn, you're creating a margin of maneuver that most people don't have. This margin allows you to invest in yourself without going into debt, gives you time to wait for the right opportunity without desperation, and protects you from new shocks. Munger knew that capital isn't just money, it's options. When you have money saved, you can say no to a bad job. You can invest in an idea that nobody else believes in. You can help a friend who will repay you in the future. You can wait. The fourth pillar of the plan would be to carefully choose who to associate with. Munger was fanatical about this idea. He said that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and if those 5 people are mediocre, complain all the time, and have no ambition, you're doomed. If you lost everything at 30, you can't afford to have negative people draining your energy. You need to actively seek relationships with people who are where you want to be, or who are climbing with you. Munger would seek mentors, even informally. He would read everything that successful people in his area wrote. He would go to events where these people are. He would offer to work for free for a period just to learn from someone exceptional. But association isn't just about climbing in life. It's about character. Munger valued integrity above all else. He would tell you to never associate with dishonest people, no matter how profitable it might seem in the short term. A destroyed reputation is almost impossible to rebuild. And once you compromise your values, it becomes easier and easier to compromise again. If you're starting over, your reputation and credibility are the only assets that nobody can take from you. Protect them ferociously. The fifth element would be to obsessively focus on creating real value. Munger despised get-rich-quick schemes, empty speculation, and anything that didn't create genuine value in the world. If he was starting over at 30, he would seek to identify a real problem that real people have and dedicate himself to solving it better than anyone else, not necessarily something revolutionary. Sometimes, doing the basics extraordinarily well already puts you ahead of 90% of the competition. Munger would start small, perhaps even working for someone, but always with the mentality of delivering more value than what's being paid. This approach has a powerful compound effect. When you consistently deliver more than you promised, people talk about you. You become indispensable. Opportunities start to appear because you built a reputation for excellence. Munger believed that most people fail not from lack of talent, but from voluntary mediocrity. They do just enough not to get fired, earn just enough not to quit, and stay trapped in that cycle forever. If you lost everything, you have to break that cycle with a work ethic that's frightening. The sixth principle would be to read voraciously. Munger read between 500 to 600 pages a day for much of his life. For him, reading was the cheapest and most efficient way to access the best minds of humanity. If you're starting at 30 without resources, you can't pay for expensive consultants or elite courses, but you can get books from the library or find PDFs online. Munger would recommend biographies of successful people to understand their mental models and avoid their mistakes. History books to see patterns that repeat themselves. Philosophy classics to develop wisdom. Technical books about your specific area to become an expert. But he would also say to read with purpose, not just to accumulate information. Each book should make you ask a question. What changed in my thinking after reading this? If the answer is nothing, you are just passing your eyes over the words. True reading transforms. It gives you frameworks to make better decisions, shows you mistakes you can avoid, and connects you with ideas that can be worth millions. The seventh crucial element would be physical and mental health. Munger lived to 99 years old, and much of that longevity came from consistent habits. If you're starting over at 30, you have decades ahead to build something extraordinary, but only if you take care of your body and mind. He would invest in adequate sleep because all bad decisions come from an exhausted mind. He would eat well within a tight budget because energy and mental clarity depend on nutrition. He would exercise, even if it was just long walks, because a body in motion keeps the mind sharp. Mental health would be equally a priority. Munger suffered deep depression when he lost his son at 9 years old. He understood that unmanaged suffering destroys lives. If you lost everything, you're likely dealing with shame, anxiety, maybe even depression. Munger would tell you not to ignore this. Seeking help isn't weakness, it's intelligence. Developing mental resilience practices, whether through therapy, meditation, journaling, or honest conversations with trustworthy people, is just as important as any financial strategy. The eighth step would be strategic patience combined with intense action. It seems contradictory, but it's not. Munger and Buffett became famous for waiting years for the right investment opportunity, but when it appeared, they acted with total decision. If you're rebuilding at 30, you need that same mentality. Work intensely every day, improving your skills, building relationships, saving money, but don't despair to take shortcuts. The best opportunities come to those who are prepared when they finally appear. Munger would tell you to create a mental punch card. Imagine you have only 20 big decisions in life, and each time you make one, you lose a space on the card. This would force you to be extremely selective. You wouldn't accept any job, any partnership, any investment. You would wait for opportunities where you have real conviction, where your skills combine perfectly with the need, where the risk return is asymmetric in your favor. The ninth principle would be inversion. Munger was obsessed with thinking in reverse. Instead of asking, "How do I get rich?" ask, "How do I ensure I'll stay poor?" The answer is clear. Spending more than you earn, not developing valuable skills, associating with the wrong people, making impulsive decisions, not taking care of your health, not reading. Now do the opposite of each of these things. Avoiding stupidity is easier than seeking brilliance, and it takes you to the same place. The 10th and perhaps most important element would be to cultivate gratitude and perspective. Munger lived through the Great Depression, saw wars, lost a son, faced professional setbacks. He knew that if you're alive, healthy, and living in a time of relative peace and opportunity, you're already among the most privileged in human history. Losing money at 30 isn't the end. It's actually a disguised opportunity to create a second life based on real wisdom, not on luck or accident. Munger would say that many people who get rich early in life without real effort end up wasting everything because they didn't learn the necessary lessons. Those who rebuild from 30 onwards, with the right principles, usually build something more solid and lasting. There's a strength that comes from having been through the bottom and climbed up with your own hands. You no longer live in fear of losing everything because you already lost and survived. This psychological freedom is a powerful asset. Throughout this entire journey, Munger would emphasize brutal consistency. It's no use reading 500 pages one day and spending 3 months without reading anything. It's no use working 16 hours for a month and then relaxing for 6. It's no use saving for 3 months and then spending everything on something unnecessary. The magic is in the daily repetition of correct actions for years. Compound interest doesn't just work with money, it works with knowledge, relationships, reputation, and skills. Munger would also remind you that you don't need to be the best in the world at anything. You need to be very good at 3 or 4 things that complement each other. If you're good at sales, good at understanding numbers, and good at building relationships, this combination puts you in a unique position that very few people occupy. Extreme specialization in multiple areas creates opportunities that don't exist for generalists or single specialists. Rebuilding from 30 also means accepting that the path will be lonely sometimes. Most people won't understand why you're living in a tiny apartment when you could finance something better. They won't understand why you work so much. They won't understand your choices. Munger would tell you to ignore those voices. Consensus is generally mediocre, and if you want extraordinary results, you need to be willing to live in an extraordinarily different way for a while. But loneliness doesn't mean isolation. You need some people who understand, who are on the same journey, who can support you in difficult moments. Munger had Buffett. You need to find your circle, even if it's small. These people will keep you sane when doubt hits, and it will hit. Finally, Munger would tell you something that few people want to hear. You're going to have to become a different person. If you lost everything at 30, most likely your previous habits, decisions, and mentality contributed to it. Not entirely, maybe there was bad luck, but rarely does someone lose everything by pure chance. This means that rebuilding isn't just about getting money back, it's about transforming yourself into the kind of person who doesn't make the same mistakes. It's painful to look in the mirror and admit your failures, but it's essential. This transformation requires brutal humility. It requires admitting that you don't know as much as you thought. It requires being willing to learn from younger people from different areas, from people you might not even personally like, but who have something valuable to teach. Munger, despite all his genius, considered himself an eternal student. At 90 years old, he still said he constantly changed his opinion when he found better information. The inconvenient truth is that rebuilding from 30 with Munger's plan isn't glamorous. It won't yield inspiring Instagram posts. It won't impress people at parties. It will involve years of hard work, sacrifices that nobody sees, and a discipline that most consider absurd. But in the end, while people who sought shortcuts remain stuck in the same places, you will have built something genuine, lasting, and deeply yours. Munger lived this philosophy until the end. He died at 99 years old, a billionaire, globally respected, surrounded by people who loved him, with a sharp mind until practically the last day. It wasn't luck. It was the result of decades of correct decisions, repeated daily, without exception. If you're at 30 having lost everything, you have about 70 years ahead if you take care of your health. That's 25,450 days. Each of these days is a chance to apply these principles. The question isn't whether you'll succeed, but whether you'll have the courage and discipline to do what needs to be done day after day, year after year, without guarantees, only with the conviction that the correct process eventually leads to the correct results. And here's my final tip, from the heart. You know what nobody tells you about starting over? The hardest part isn't the days when you're motivated, working hard, full of energy. Those days, however exhausting they may be, have a good taste of purpose. The real test is those gray days when you wake up and nothing has changed yet. You worked for months, saved every penny, read dozens of books, and you look around and it seems like you're still in the same place. On those days, when the urge to give up tightens in your chest, remember, success isn't loud. It arrives quietly, almost without warning, after you've been doing the right thing for so long that you don't even remember what it was like to do differently. Continue, not because you see results, but because you know deep down that this is what people like Munger would do. And one day, maybe 5 years from now, you'll look back and won't believe the distance you traveled while you thought you were standing still. Take a deep breath. You can do it, one day at a time.